for land and use development, for refining the land use code, and for collaborating on master planning efforts and other planning studies that may take place. The Planning Commission provides its recommendations thoroughly, diligently, and review hearing public testimony. We had a couple members that we want to recognize. We're grateful for their service. Ms. Lynn and Mr. Bernardo, we'd like to recognize them for their service with a plaque if they are in the audience. I do not see them here, but I'll just tell you a little bit about Ms. Lynn. She brought perspective that can only be gained through the years of service she had already contributed in other communities. Her perspective helped raise and awareness within our own land use process and ideas about community growth. And it's never good to get locked into a local only point of view, and Ms. Lynn often brought up questions and concerns that stretch the local perspective in a healthy and productive way. She did all of this in addition to serving as a chairperson of the commission. I know she's not here, but we would like to thank her for her service to the community. And Mr. Bernardo, he also brought a point of view to the land use and development process that was almost opposite of Ms. Lynn, but which was no less valuable for its difference. He was unfairly aware of the City of Evans' unique needs and history of growth, and often voiced local concerns in a way that was both productive and proactive. He also raised concerns about projects without attempting to halt development, which resulted in an attitude of careful progress that is difficult to find and very valuable in a community like Evans. So I'd like to recognize both of them for their service. Unfortunately, they're not here, so we will make sure they get a couple of their plaques. And the next people that we want to recognize are from the Water and Sewer Board. Mr. James Crunsell served on the City of Evans Water and Sewer Board for over 29 years, from 1991 to...
Pardon me, Mayor Pro Tem, I believe Deborah Lynn has arrived.
Oh, all right.
And I'm going to make a special spot for this item. Wonder if you could read that on her.
Absolutely.
Again.
Sure. Ms. Lynn, thank you for coming tonight. We appreciate you being here. I just want to say that we really thank you for your years of service on the Planning Commission, and I just want to say that you brought a great perspective that can only be gained through the years of service that you contributed to other communities. Your perspective helped raise awareness within our own land use processes and ideas about community growth. It is never good to get locked into a local only point of view, and you often brought up questions and concerns that stretch the local perspective in a healthy and productive way. You did all of this in addition to serving as the chairperson of the commission. So we really do want to thank you, and we want to present you with this plaque.
Oh my goodness. Mike, thank you.
Make sure.
All right, back to the Water and Sewer Board recognition. So Mr. Crunsell served on the Evans Water and Sewer Board for over 29 years from 1991 to 2020. The Water and Sewer Board provides guidance and service to the city in regards to a number of important functions. The board makes recommendations regarding important issues such as billing, rates, debt services, in addition to the reserves. Appeals regarding rates or policies, water rights purchases, standards of water and sewer construction, annual reporting, adequate fire flows throughout the city, ensuring systems and facilities are in compliance with state and federal standards, and much more. A member of the community who donates his or her time to serve the city is always appreciated. A member like Jim Crunsell, who donated 29 years to service the city, is a rare gift. In addition to Jim's generosity with his time, he brought to the city a point of view that balanced long-range visions, short-range needs, and available resources. He has been with the city through quite a number of years and of rapid growth alike, keeping his level-headed perspective throughout it all. His long-term knowledge of the city and his services has been greatly appreciated by all who worked with him, and he will be missed. So we're very grateful for your service on the Water and Sewer Board, and we'd like to present this plaque to you. Thank you very much for your service. I really appreciate it. Thanks, sir. I really appreciate it. All right, next up we have police department recognitions. And I understand that Chief is going to be presenting some awards this evening.
You will, and I'll just start off by introducing this with my confidence that there's no question from our city council about the value and the worth of our police department. I think especially through the last few months, it's been especially challenging time for the police department locally and nationally. I know we do our best to say thank you, but we don't do it enough. And so this is one way when we do have, unusually meritorious service to recognize that we get to say thank you. So I know we have several officers to recognize. I'm going to turn it over to the chief, but I'll note that our honorees have good support from their law enforcement brothers and sisters here tonight. So, Chief.
Thank you, Jim. Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem, Council. It's my honor and privilege to be able to recognize the fine work of our officers of the Evans Police Department. As the city manager mentioned, it's been a particularly difficult period of time for policing in the country, but I will say that the support that we receive from our council, our leadership, and our citizens, I think, help make the job a little easier. I think what officers do day in and day out often deserve recognition of its own right, but we set a bar kind of high, so we expect even higher levels of service before we're going to do a formal recognition. So tonight I'm recognizing a number of officers on two different incidents that occurred this year, and all dealing with life-saving. So the first one involves Officer Luis Garcia. Officer Garcia, would you come forward? So this year, June 15th, Luis responded to a call of it was a medical assist call at one of our local stores that someone was overdosing in the back of the store. And when he arrived, he found a woman performing CPR on what appeared to be an unconscious male. Officer Garcia made a quick assessment of the situation, and he determined that the symptoms that the male was displaying were indicative of an opioid overdose. So based on his training and experience, he did deploy a dose of Narcan, which is an antagonist, an opioid antagonist. It's administered nasally. And after receiving that one dose, the male subject started regaining some consciousness, although he was still having labored breathing and wasn't coming fully back into consciousness. So Officer Garcia administered a second dose, and it was through his quick action that the male survived. He regained consciousness and was hospitalized. Officer Garcia arrived several minutes ahead of fire, so if we'd only relied on the fire department to get there, not disparaging my fire colleagues, but it takes them a little longer to ramp up and get to a call, so we're fortunate that officers in Evans are equipped with the Narcan and can get there fairly quickly, and these moments and these minutes make all the difference. So for his excellent response to this situation and his quick assessment of the situation, we are rewarding Officer Garcia a life-saving award for distinguished and meritorious service to the Evans Police Department and the citizens of the city of Evans.
Part of it.
Oh, darn, I have old man glasses on, too. For this next incident, I'd like to call Officer Troy McDaniel and Todd Ediger up forward, please. Gentlemen, good evening. This call involved actually 4 officers, Troy McDaniel, Todd Ettinger, Jason Pepis, and Jason Sischler. But Sischler and Pepis are both out. Jason Pepis had to go to, out of state on a sick relative, and Sischler had a pre-planned vacation, which is apparently more important than receiving this recognition. So, this case occurred on March 1st. And of last year, actually, 2019. And in this call, is that right, 2019? That's what it says on here, okay. In this call, they were dispatched to a suicidal party at a residence. So when the officers arrived, they heard a vehicle running in a closed garage and forced entry into the house because they had information that there was fear that the party in the house was suicidal and nobody was answering the door. So once they were able to gain entrance into the house and into the garage, they encountered a running car with an individual inside. The air was thick with monoxide. If you've never been in a saturated monoxide environment, carbon monoxide environment, it's extremely poisonous, and it takes very, very little time to disable you. All 4 officers, disregarding their own personal safety, rushed in. They knew they had to get the individual out of that environment and into fresh air. The garage was dark. They were unable to get the power garage door to work open. They were finally able to get the door open and quickly ventilating the garage. They removed the individual from the car. Fortunately, he was starting to regain consciousness soon after being exposed back to a regular environment. He was transported to the hospital where he made a full recovery. Again, I've been in those environments. These officers have been in that environment. Highly toxic, highly dangerous. They knew what they were going into. But as is the tradition in law enforcement, when duty calls and they were called on this day, their lives were they were willing to put their lives on the line to save someone else. So for their valiant efforts in quick response and getting this individual into a safe environment, presenting Troy McDaniel with a life-saving award for distinguished and meritorious service to the Evans Police Department and the citizens of the City of Evans. Todd, Zane, for your efforts, valiant efforts on this date, I'm awarding you with a life-saving award for distinguished and meritorious service to the Evans Police Department and the citizens of the City of Evans. Thank you. That concludes my awards.
Thank you, Chief. I just want to make a comment, and I want to say, congratulations to the officers that received the awards today. That's, you are a great asset to the community. I think Evans has one of the best police departments in the entire state, and it just goes to show exactly by the heroism that you guys did, to protect the community and protect lives and save lives, what you do on a daily basis. I think you guys are truly the absolute best that we have in the entire state, and I want to thank you. I just want to let you know the community is behind you, we're behind you, and we appreciate everything you do. So continue everything that you do greatly, and we really appreciate everything you do for us. So thank you. All right. Next item on the agenda is audience participation. Is there anybody in the audience who wishes to address council on any item that is not a public hearing or on the agenda for this evening? Seeing none, we'll go to the next item on the agenda, approval of the agenda. Are there any changes to the agenda this evening?
Mr. Mayor Pro Tem, staff has been advised that by a council member who would like to request an amendment to the minutes from your meeting from July 7th. So with that understanding, staff would request that it's appropriate that that item, the minutes from July 7th, be removed from the consent agenda so that they can receive separate consideration from the council. 7A.
Okay. Do I have a motion to approve the agenda as amended, or are we going to read the changes into the record?
A motion to approve the agenda as amended would be appropriate.
I move to approve the agenda as amended.
I second.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve the agenda as amended. All of those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All of those opposed say nay. Motion passes. Next item, consent agenda. The consent agenda is reserved for matters that are considered to be routine and uncontroversial. Any item may be removed from the consent agenda and placed on the regular agenda at the request of the city council. Are they need a motion to approve the consent agenda as amended?
I move to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
I have a motion to consider the consent agenda. All of those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Motion passes. All right. Old business, public hearing, consideration of board.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem, I think it would be appropriate to consider item 7A directly following the consent agenda.
Okay. I'm sorry. Can we consider consent agenda A, changing the meeting minutes to reflect Council Neal's remarks? We can have those read into the records.
So staff would just again communicate that Councilmember Neal came to us with some requested amendments based on his read of the minutes as his right as a council member. I don't know if he would like to speak to what the amendments are to the minutes. That would be up to the chair and Councilmember Neal. If you'd like to explain what they are.
Well, the original statement in the minutes was Councilmember Fred Neal stated that he stood right where Pat was 16 years ago and also complained about the road. And I'd like the following verbiage added, not being paved as promised. Councilmember Neal also asked what had happened to the $50,000 grant the city received to pave the road. And then in a separate section, I wanted the verbiage, the annexation was pushed by long-standing East Side resident Mayor Wiesberg and objected to by 8 LaSalle families, 1 represented by council, and 2 Evans families and Fred Neal.
And Mr. Mayor Pro Tem, just so the record's clear, I believe all the council members have a set of the minutes with the proposed revisions that Councilmember Neal has asked for.
All right. Thank you. All right. I would entertain a motion to approve the item A of the consent agenda to reflect the meeting request update as Councilmember Neal.
Before you do, I have a question. Is this verified through the records? The changes requested?
I believe, and I would ask City Clerk Frawley to verify, but conversation we had was all, as is customary with our minutes, they are summary in nature. So Councilmember Neal's request is to elaborate on that summary minute so that more of his comments were in the record.
And what I'm wondering, I'm just asking if that was what the audio of the session of our meeting.
I know that masks have made minutes a little more
a little
challenging.
hard. Okay, thank you.
Any more questions or discussion regarding? I would entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda as amended.
Actually,
move
just
to
be item
approve.
7A.
Oh, just item 7A.
I move to approve item 7A
I have a motion. Oh,
as
sorry.
amended.
Okay.
Second.
I have a motion, a second, to approve consent agenda item 7A, approval of the July 7, 2020 council meeting as amended. All of those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay.
Nay.
Motion passes. All right. Item 8, old business, a public hearing, consideration of ordinance 722-20, annexing and zoning certain lands concurrently in connection with the Mountain Tracks Intermodal LLC petition for annex second reading. I'm going to open up the public hearing, and I'm going to ask if there's any questions or comments or any more discussion regarding this matter. Seeing none, I would entertain a motion.
Check for public comment during the hearing.
Any public comment regarding in support or of this item or against the item? Seeing none,
Close public hearing.
close the public hearing and council discussion. Any discussion on this item?
I think it's pretty straightforward.
I think we had the discussion the last,
Yes.
so.
All right, I would entertain a motion if there's no questions or comments.
I move to adopt ordinance number 722-20 on second reading as proposed to annex certain territory comprised of 3.86 acres into the city of Evans and concurrently zone the property I-3 with restrictions on certain uses. Second.
I have a motion, a second, to adopt ordinance number 722-20 on second reading as proposed to annex certain territories comprised of 3.86 acres into the city of Evans to concurrently zone the property I-3 with certain uses. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay.
Nay.
Motion passes. All right, moving on to new business. Item A, consideration of Board of Zoning Appeals and Planning Commission appointments. We'll hear from staff.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Council may recall that you've recently enacted an ordinance to actually enact the results of a charter amendment, ballot measure from several years prior, to allow members of the Planning Commission and the members of the Zoning Board of Appeals to hold other appointed positions within the city. So effectively now, this will help us by allowing our Planning Commission to concurrently be appointed as members of the Board of Zoning Appeals. As Council has heard and has discussed, there are no inherent conflicts of interest involved with matters coming to the Planning Commission and then also or the Board of Zoning Appeals. So tonight, since Council took action at your last meeting to appoint a couple new members of your Planning Commission, we're asking you to take the action of appointing the entire Planning Commission, all of the members of the Planning Commission, plus our alternate Planning Commissioner, as members of the Board of Zoning Appeals, so that they can serve in both roles. So that's issue one that's part of this item. Issue two is that we would also be reappointing Planning Commissioner Billy Castillo to another term of office. He was originally appointed June 23rd, 2015, and his term expired actually a couple weeks ago, to July 7th, 2020. So it would be staff's recommendation that the City Council appoint Mr. Castillo to a next term. He has served the Planning Commission well, and staff believes would do a good job on his next term. So those are the two actions that are part of the motion recommended for Council's consideration this evening, and that concludes staff's remarks.
Any questions or comments of staff? All right, I would.
I have.
All right, I would entertain a motion to appoint those members.
I move to appoint the current members of the Planning Commission to also serve as members of the Zoning Board of Appeals.
Second.
I have a motion to, and a second to appoint the current members of the Planning Commission to also serve as members of the Zoning Board of Appeals. And we're going to do those in two different motions.
They are separate motions, yes.
Okay. All of those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say nay. Motion passes.
I move to reappoint Billy Castillo as a member of the Planning Commission.
I second.
And Mayor Pro Tem, just for clarity, since Mr. Castillo is not a member of the Planning Commission until he's reappointed, if you could make sure that in your motion that you want to appoint him to the Planning Commission and to the Zoning Board of Appeals.
So I will amend my motion then. I move to reappoint Billy Castillo as a member of the Planning Commission and of the Zoning Board of Appeals.
I second.
I have a motion and a second to approve, or to reappoint Billy Castillo as a member of the Planning Commission and to the Zoning Board of Appeals. All of those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Motion passes. And I believe we have a member of the Zoning Board of Appeals in the audience today, Mark Leclerc, right? Yes. If you would like to come up, I'll present you the certificate. Is there anybody else from the Planning Commission here or the Zoning Board of Appeals?
I think we're going to have a photo here, gentlemen, just a moment, I think.
All right, next item on the agenda is consideration of award of bid for the 47th Avenue construction project, and we'll hear from staff.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. The city's largest capital project of 2020 is the first phase, the utility phase of the widening of 47th Avenue. This is the first widening project, arterial widening project that we'll see over the next few years. So it's an exciting project for us. Tonight we have consideration of the award of bid for construction, and I'll ask our city engineer, Mark Oberschmidt, to give an overview of the project and the bid process and the bid recommendation.
Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem, members of council. So for this project, we advertised it earlier this year, and we got a lot of interest in the project. We had a fairly large attendance at our pre-bid meeting. We ended up getting 11 bidders on the project, and the bids ranged from $3.5 million up to $4.6 million. The engineer's estimate was in around $3.9 million, so 7 of the bids came in under the engineer's estimate, and DeFalco Construction was the lowest qualified bidder of the ones that provided bids. We checked into their references. They've done extensive work in Longmont, Erie, and for Weld County. So I called some connections over at all those locations, and they all gave them good references. Weld County actually gave them a really good reference on their project they did because they came in with some surprisingly good ideas to improve the project and add value to it. Longmont also, where they're headquartered in Longmont, so they've done a lot of work there, and they've done a lot of good projects there. Based on those referrals and the history I have with around the area, I think these guys are probably going to be a pretty good contractor. We've already had some discussions with them on how they think they can run the project and make it run as smoothly as possible. And as you know, we're going to be building it in 2 phases. We're going to do the utility work this year and then the road work next year, because we don't think we'll get the utilities all in, not just ours, other people's, before the end of the year. So with that, I'd entertain it, or if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Do you have any questions or comments for staff?
I do have a comment. DeFalco, I assume this is how you pronounce it, placed their bid, and it had 2 items that were missing from their bid. I just want to express that I have some concern if those 2 items were missing from their bid and we amended the bid, if there's going to be more items that may be missing in the bid that you want to award them.
There weren't, the bids were compared apples to apples. So at the very last minute, we caught something in the plan set where the concrete was mislabeled. So the quantity of 8-inch concrete, 8-inch thick concrete, and 6-inch concrete, there should not have been any 6-inch. It should have all been 8-inch. So we adjusted the bid tab. Some of the bidders used the correct bid tab. Some of them did not. So when we compared the bids, we compared them apples and apples so that they all were compared with the appropriate quantity. So where we, in the instance where you mentioned, the 6-inch concrete should have been 0 and the 8-inch concrete, I believe, was 240 square yards, but that's, and then the other item I think that was missing was they think they forgot to include the allowance for the erosion control or the prairie dogs. So when we compared the bids, we checked them apples and apples, and they still came in below Mountain Constructors by about 100 and some thousand. So about 1.3% or something like that.
Okay, that was my next question, is when they changed their bid, if they were still the lower bid.
Yes, they were.
And you said that they've done a lot of work in Longmont.
Erie, Longmont, and Weld County.
And we've checked that, we've seen their work.
I haven't actually seen their work because didn't get over to Longmont to see the work, but I talked to people that I know and I trust, and I got good references.
Right. I just want to make sure that if we are awarding a project, that it turns out to be a good finish on the project.
And you said that the utility work is going to start this year, and then we expect construction to start when?
The utility work will go through the end of this year. I mean, if the other utilities, namely Excel, gets out of the way and we have time, we would love to pave. But I'm not hoping for that.
No, right. let's be clear. We're planning to pave next year,
Okay.
next summer.
So we would wait till the plant's open and then start that work.
All right. Any other questions or comments for staff? If not, I would entertain a motion.
I move to award the 47th Avenue Widening project to DeFalco Construction and to authorize the mayor's signature on an agreement in the amount of $3,503,943.74 with a not to exceed amount of $3,854,300.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve the 47th Avenue Widening project to DeFalco Construction and authorize the mayor's signature on an agreement in the amount of $3,503,943.74 with a not to exceed amount of $3,854,300. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Motion passes.
Thank you.
Next item on the agenda is consideration of an intergovernmental agreement with the City of Greeley for the 47th Avenue Widening funding.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. This item is the same project as the one that was last on your agenda. The widening project will ultimately extend from 37th Street in Evans North to the City of Greeley. The project does have a stretch of about 550 feet that's actually included in the city of Greeley. So in order to ensure a very contiguous and continuous project of that arterial, we have included that 550 feet of property in Greeley in the project. So Mark and his team have been working with the City of Greeley staff to share the costs for that section in Greeley, and this item in front of you would be an intergovernmental agreement to allow Greeley to pay for their share of the project, which is $214,823. And with that, Mayor, we recommend council's approval of the IGA.
Any questions or comment of staff?
Of course. So So the installation of 5 water service connecting to Evans water mains, are these homes in Greeley, on the Greeley side or in the Evans side?
They're on the Evans side. They're currently being served on a dead-end Greeley water main, which Greeley would like to abandon.
Okay. Do we have a water line
Yes,
close to that?
yes.
All right. Are they going to be on a dead end again,
No.
or they're going to appreciate having some nice water then?
Yes.
I have one of those.
Mark, did Greeley give me a reason for not doing that 550 feet when they did that, all that work a few years back?
No, we didn't ask, I didn't ask that question, I'm sorry. So, it might have been a question of scale, because I think they only did a small portion there, so they might have, this is a much bigger project, so we could add on the 550 feet and get a little better price.
Yeah. Well, I know they did a lot of work on that, so I was just wondering why they didn't do all of it. So.
Thank you, Fred. Any other questions or comments of staff? If not, I would entertain a motion.
I move to approve the intergovernmental agreement with Greeley for the 47th Avenue widening project and authorize the mayor's signature on the agreement.
Second.
I have a motion and second to approve the intergovernmental agreement with Greeley for the 47th Avenue widening project and authorize the mayor's signature on the agreement. All of those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Motion passes. All right, next item on the agenda, consideration of resolution number 23-2020 in support of the Great Outdoors Colorado Grant Fund improvements at Arrowhead Lake Open Space and Track O Open Space, and we'll hear from staff.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. As council is aware, over the last couple of years, the city's done a lot to prepare the Tract O section of Tuscany to be ready for construction for the non-potable water irrigation system that will serve Tuscany, with a vision of creating a little bit of an open space park setting there along with those irrigation ponds. So that, along with the recent acquisition of the Arrowhead open space, as we're currently calling it, as council's aware, there's a similar vision for that space that would allow for a place where people can come together, take a walk around the park, and serve as a future trailhead for Evans' entire trail network. The city has used, as council may be aware, Great Outdoors Colorado grant funding for several projects. We've been very fortunate. Our staff over time has had really great relationships with the GOCO staff and has been able to help to develop good projects. We have some encouraging early feedback that based on the proposal developed by our staff, that a project to improve both of those parcels that I outlined could be a feasible grant project. And so it would be tremendous if we could get grant funding to advance those improvement of those areas sooner, because as council is aware, we don't readily have funding for those projects, and it would take several years probably to get there. So with that long intro, I will turn it over to Ann Johnson, who can give an overview of the fun stuff, because she's been talking with a lot of our residents and getting lots of good ideas, and we'd like to share the concept for what these two new public spaces could look like, and hopefully gain your support for a resolution of support for the GOCO grant, which is part of the application process. Take it away.
Thank
Did I just
you.
steal all of your thunder? Or?
No, not at all. Thank you, Jim, and thank you, Mayor Pro Tem and members of the council. So for this year, under normal circumstances, GOCO would have 2 funds that could help fund parks. One is their mini grant, one is their local parks and outdoor recreation program. Because of COVID, they have pooled all of those resources together, and they're calling it the Resilient Communities Fund. And it's a one-time $15 million fund to help communities that have been disrupted through the COVID pandemic. Eligible projects will fund one-time immediate needs or will assist with opportunities that have emerged in direct response to the pandemic. So providing for more outdoor spaces, providing for communities that have different types of populations, and letting people get outdoors and be healthy and have access to outdoor opportunities. There are 4 application rounds. The first was July 17th. The next one will be August 7th, October 16th, and sometime in February 2021 if they have any funds left. So city staff has been working with GOCO staff, and we feel as if the August 7th is our best opportunity to submit an application. And they are reviewing draft budgets, and they're reviewing our draft narratives right now to help us. Staff has conducted 4 open houses in order to get the buy-in from the neighbors of the Arrowhead neighborhood, as well as the Tuscany neighborhood. We had a lot of great voting from different ages, from the little teeny tiny 2- and 3-year-olds voting with stickers all the way up to those in 70s and 80s. We had folks come out. The largest participation were actually the ones that we had here at City Hall. But we did a vote with DOT campaign, and we were able to solicit over 100 responses for what types of amenities the community was looking for in their new open space. So at Arrowhead, some of the amenities that the folks decided that they wanted to see would be raptor perches and posts, or raptor posts and perches, benches, public shelters, or a picnic shelter or a picnic table, boulders for climbing on. Who doesn't want to go climb rocks? Trash cans and dog waste receptacles. This was the most adorable one. A little girl named Elle put all of her stickers, because she's always dreamt of flying a kite, and so she wants a kite flying field. So Elle's field is great big right there in the middle. They want interpretive signs. The neighbors in this area are really proud of the rich biodiversity and wildlife that's in that area, and they really want people to be able to learn about the wildlife, the cormorants and other birds that are in that area. A screened restroom, not just a big welcome to Evans and here's our portalette, but maybe having it be screened a little bit more decoratively, since that's going to be a major entry to Evans. A parking lot, water quality pond is right there. You see that in number 11, the big blue circle there. And then bird boxes and preliminary discussions with Home Depot. They've indicated they might be willing to donate the materials for children to make bird boxes, so that then we can put the bird boxes in these open space areas and kids can actually go and look for their box. So these are some initial ideas. The hammock stands were a big hit as well. So the majority of these items we can probably do. There are other items like a picnic shelter we might not be able to do this time because of cost and not exceeding our grant allotment. But at least we can get the bones down with the trail, the waste bins, some of the benches, and then just build on this through the years, but get those bones there. So this represents what people are interested in for Arrowhead. And then moving on to tract, it's a little difficult to see here, but we were camped right here in Renaissance Park. And the individuals that did come and participate, there were a couple individuals that lived right here in this area that came to participate. They're interested in trails. It will be Crusher Fine Trail here. Again, boulders for climbing on, interpretive signage, trash cans and dog receptacles, other benches, raptor posts, and again, bird boxes here. These neighborhoods also voted for some kinetic wind art that they would like to see, and also some outdoor musical instruments that they wanted to see, not real noisy ones, but nice quiet ones. But those things will have to wait probably to phase 2. So again, phase 1, we'll take a look at the Crusher Fine Trail, coming down, making a loop along the southern part with some interpretive signage down at the bottom. This little bit here will be an extension of the sidewalk in concrete, 10 feet wide concrete, and then it will connect into a crusher fine trail. And that's what we had, and again, it was voted on by citizens. They were very grateful and liked having their opportunity for a 5-minute vote with stickers. And we had a follow-up meeting where they voted and helped break some ties. And Councilmember Neal was at every one of the events, so we appreciate you coming and helping us wrangle in some people for voting. And that completes my presentation of the outcome from the voting. And again, our request is to seek approval by council that we can apply for this grant. Another item I would like to add is normally GOCO does have a 25% cash match. But because the city's recent purchase and acquisition of Arrowhead with a appraisal, we are able to use the money expended on the appraisal as well as the purchase price for our cash match. So the city won't have to outlay any additional funds for this round. And that's why we felt it was very important to get our foot in the door. And even if we're denied this year from this special fund that they have, we'll take their advice and we'll improve the application for 2021, and we'll keep going until we get it.
As Ann said, our purpose tonight is really just to share the outcome. This isn't a hard and fast design. We would like council's feedback and ideas, creativity on some of the concepts here. You know, before this would be built, we'd go into more of a formal design process, but we just wanted to share some of the creativity that came out of those meetings with citizens and that the staff has worked on so far, and ask your consideration of the resolution to move forward with the GOCO grant application. That concludes our remarks, Mayor Pro Tem.
All right, thank you. I just want to say that anytime we can go after a grant, it's great. And I think the city has a great track record of getting grants from all different sources and all different places. So I would be definitely in favor of this. Any questions or comments for staff?
I just wanted to really commend staff for the creativity and thoughtfulness that went into this. Really looking at that as one space to be utilized is such a fantastic idea. I know, being a resident in Tuscany and knowing the history of Tract O and everything there, but then how that connects to the space in Arrowhead, I think it makes so much sense, and to be able to lean on then the possibility of grant funding is just so advantageous. And I really hope that our residents understand how the hard work of staff is benefiting them. So I just have to say from the bottom of my heart, thank you so much for your creativity and thoughtfulness in this project. I think it's absolutely fantastic. You have my full support.
Well, thank you. And if I may, Mayor Pro Tem, I do want to say that, again, this is a multi-department project. Many hands are in this, and everybody is really working hard on this project.
I also appreciate, and I echo what Councilmember Castle said, you know, the creativity is definitely astounding. The fact that everyone makes, you know, with a fine comb, looks at every single angle and makes sure that, to make sure that we are really utilizing everything that we can in an effort to not have to use, you know, city funds, especially with that 25% match that we were able to use the acquisition of Arrowhead as that. I mean, that's amazing that we are not having to actually use, you know, money from the city in order to get this project going. So, I mean, I really appreciate all the hard work, and I thank you. And I am for getting this grant.
I'm for the grant too. I just want to be sure that when we get to the actual planning phase of this, that we take into consideration how our staffing is for the maintenance of this, and that we make it as low maintenance as we can, while making it appealing to people to use. And again, when we get to that point too, I don't see anything in here about, putting a low fence or something to kind of keep the people that want to use this park, the Arrowhead Park, out of the lake, Arrowhead Lake. So that's just something that I think that we should kind of keep in mind, because I certainly don't want to have it, people trespassing, impeding onto the lake.
Councilmember Spear, I can let you know that phase of the Arrowhead work, securing our property border along the lake with a low fence and also signage, is on our operations team's agenda, even yet work plan for this summer still. So
Super.
that's going to be done.
Yeah, just the safety issue and again, some trespassing. So, I appreciate going after this because we obviously can't afford a lot. So it would be great to have something done.
Thank you, Councilman.
Just a real quick thing, the battery's about to die on this. All right, any more questions or comments, Fred?
Yeah, the fencing was one of the main concerns from the Arrowhead residents, and some of them wanted something other than just a split rail fence along there, which kind of would have obscured the beauty of the lake and sitting there looking at the lake. So I figured that the fencing couldn't be part of the GOCO grant, and I'm glad to see we're working on that, getting it in, because that was one of the primary concerns of the residents of Arrowhead.
Any other questions or comments? If not, I would entertain a motion.
I move to adopt resolution number 23-2020 and authorize the city manager to sign the Great Outdoors Colorado Resilient Communities application form.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to adopt resolution number 23-2020 and authorize the city manager to sign the Great Outdoors Colorado Resilient Communities application form. All of those in approval, say aye.
Aye.
All against, nay. Motion passes. Next item on the agenda, public hearing, consideration of ordinance number 728-20, implementing the Colorado sales and use tax software system, first reading. I will open up the public hearing and hear from staff.
Thank you, Mayor. This ordinance, if adopted, would make our code consistent with a recent U.S. Supreme Court decision related to a retailer's obligation to pay sales tax, particularly out-of-state and online retailers. So with that, I will ask our Finance Director, Jackie Trout, to give a little bit more of an overview than I just did, and we'll ask for your consideration of this ordinance on first reading.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem Clark, members of City Council. As Jim mentioned, this is in result to South Dakota versus Wayfair, which I think many of us are familiar with the term Wayfair, that allows nexus or presence in our state to be judged not only on a physical presence, but also an economic basis. So online retailers that are now delivering in or having goods delivered to residents of Colorado and specifically of Evans, those retailers are responsible for remitting sales tax to Colorado and to Evans. The state was tasked with a Senate bill that required them to make this easy, dare I use that term, for businesses to comply. So there needed to be a structure in place for businesses to identify what cities they were delivering into, identify what those applicable sales tax rates were, and thus file as well. The state organized a task force which selected MuniRev, a very credible system here developed in Colorado actually, to be that one-stop shop so that retailers can quickly identify what might be applicable for them. There's a nice GIS component of this system as well that allows them to search by an address that they may be delivering into. It will update them with sales tax rates to make it easy for them to file once both the city and the state component of that. The hope is that this encourages those online retailers to go ahead and continue to file in the state. It should enable Evans to receive those payments more timely than maybe those businesses would have recognized their need to file directly with Evans. So before you tonight is both an ordinance to update code section language to be consistent with other states that have adopted this and other cities that have adopted this program here in the state of Colorado, as well as an agreement with the state of Colorado, which authorizes the Muni Reps program to receive these funds and distribute to them. We have worked with them off and on. We do feel comfortable with the system. They do charge a nominal fee for that ACH download to get that money to us. We pay a similar fee for the current receipts that we receive for folks that file directly with us. We don't feel like there's a financial burden in participating with this. It is voluntary. If council decided we did not want to participate, then that is an option we have. We see very little downside other than the $1 per ACH upload for these transactions. We should get money more timely. And the Muni Rev Systems actually thinks that we may get more revenue than we would otherwise be receiving directly. And just so you know, this is a program, the Muni Rev's platform appears to be really, really beneficial and something that we will continue to look forward to in a few years. Hopefully it's something that makes sense for us to migrate onto as well and from our current system. So it is something that we had our eye on already, and we would continue to entertain the option of what they may be able to provide for us in the future. With that, I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
All right, since this is a public hearing and the city is the applicant, I'm going to ask anybody in the audience who wishes to support this issue, please come forward to the podium. Seeing none, I'm going to ask anybody in the audience who would like to come up to the podium and speak in opposition of it. Seeing none, I'm assuming the applicant has no rebuttal, and I'm going to ask council if there's any questions that they would like to ask or anything they'd like to bring up before I close the public hearing.
I just want to ask for clarification. Is there an opt-out of this?
There is not an opt-out. It's basically an opt-in if we're...
I mean, if we try it for 6 months or a year and decide that it's something that we don't want to participate in further, can we...
I think at any point we could cease the relationship with this structure.
All right, thank you for the clarification.
Any other questions or comments? Fred?
Well, I noticed that when I buy stuff from Newegg, I'm getting hit more and more with taxes, so we might as well, the city of Evans might as well get their share from it instead of Colorado taking the whole ball of wax and spending it.
All right, any other questions or comments?
I have none.
All right, I'm going to...
I have a comment.
Okay, good.
I think it's great. I've worked with Muni Reps quite a bit, and they're really great. I think they're really going to like it. I'm looking forward to it. I would fully anticipate that we see an increase in sales tax. So I think it's a very positive move. I think there's, I would say, little to no risk to the city, and in full support.
All right, I'm going to go ahead and close the public hearing and council discussion. I'm in favor and support of this, so I'll just vote.
I'm in favor as well. I mean, like if ever anything were to arise, then we can always opt out. But I think there's more positive going this route. So I'm in favor.
I agree.
And we have a separate line item for this. Can we tell how much we actually
We will
can make?
start, yeah. I've talked with our staff accountant that does our sales tax reporting, and our plan is to capture these revenues directly from the state as their own separate line item, since they'll be online deliveries. And with that, we hope to segregate some of the other online filers that are directly filing with us. So hopefully we can gather those and report on them as their own industry going forward. So we'll be able to track specifically what we're receiving from this and how that compares to other collections.
Right, and it's just more of a data, point there,
Absolutely.
which should be very interesting to see the value. Thank you.
All right, any more council discussion? All right, if not, I will entertain a motion.
I move to approve the sales and use tax software user agreement and to adopt ordinance number 728-20 on first reading.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve the sales and use tax software user agreement and adopt ordinance number 728-20 on the first reading. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Motion passes. Next item on the agenda, consideration of resolution number 24-2020, a resolution rescheduling the October 6th, 2020 City Council meeting. I'll hear from staff.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. As council will recall, and as we do each year, you approve a regular schedule of city council meetings late in the year before, I guess, you approve the regular schedule for meetings for the following year, late in the preceding year. So you did that for this year, and we always try to accommodate National Night Out. As we know, council members frequently want to participate. So the National Night Out is traditionally scheduled for the first Tuesday in August. That would have been August 4th. You took the action late last year to reschedule what would have been a Tuesday, August 4th meeting, rescheduled it to August 3rd. With the COVID activity happening, National Night Out has been rescheduled for October 6th, which is a Tuesday, first Tuesday in October. So this item would provide council the opportunity to reschedule that regular meeting, which has been scheduled for Tuesday, October 6th, to another night. Staff has recommended the Monday preceding, which would be October 5th. So this resolution will allow you to reschedule a regular meeting from October 6th to October 5th so that you could, at your choice, participate in National Night Out.
Any questions or comment from staff?
I have none.
I was thinking about, so would we move the August meetings after Tuesday or leave it on Monday?
It's a good question. Just for clarity, at this point, staff has anticipated that you would keep that scheduled Monday meeting, August 3rd, as opposed to the 4th, since you've made that change. It would be your prerogative to change it back if you'd like. This resolution contemplates the one action for October, but we could probably make it work on the fly here if council had a different preference.
I would say because we've already voted to reschedule it to the 3rd, and I think most of the public, that participates in the council meetings or watch virtually, they're probably already anticipating it to be on that rescheduled date. So I would just leave it as it is for August.
I agree.
I was just wondering because then that might cause me to be just a little late that night.
Any other questions or comments for staff?
I have none.
If not, I would entertain a motion.
I move to adopt resolution number 25-2020.
Second.
24.
I'm sorry. 24. I'll amend. I move to adopt resolution number 24-2020.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve resolution number 24-2020. All of those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those nay. Motion passes. Next item on the agenda, consideration of resolution number 25-2020, appointment of the Evans interim city clerk, and we'll hear from staff.
Thanks, Mayor Pro Tem. With the departure of our current city clerk, it's necessary that we appoint an interim city clerk. The city clerk is actually one of the positions named in the city's charter, and the charter specifies that the city manager shall appoint a city clerk, quote unquote, with the approval by a majority vote of all members of the city council. So this is one position that the council approves the appointment of the incumbent. So with this item, I am asking council to approve the appointment of Julie Rader as the interim city clerk. As you likely know, Julie serves as our administrative services director. Her purview includes several different departments. one of which is our city clerk. So she has supervised the role. She's familiar generally with the clerk duties and has been learning a lot even in the last couple weeks. Make sure that we'll have good transition with everything. So Julie would serve as interim city clerk with lots of capable help, as you see by several of our staff who are interested in learning about the clerk profession and clerk work. So with that, I just ask your support for the resolution appointing Julie interim city clerk. Okay. I think she's back there too. The one in the mask.
Any questions or comments for staff?
Thank you for taking this on. I appreciate you, and I'm glad that we have, you have support as well during this interim period for you.
Any additional questions or comments? If not, I would entertain a motion.
I move to adopt resolution number 25-2020.
Okay.
I have a motion and a second to approve, adopt resolution number 2020. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Motion passes. Next item, manager.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Following that last item, I will just update council that we have been recruiting for the city clerk position. I believe we have upwards of 100 applications for the position. So we know that we have some smart folks internally, and we're hoping that we'll have a really strong field so we can do our best to replace Karen's expertise. So we're moving that process along as expeditiously as we can. So we hope that within, several weeks to a month, we do have someone to appoint. With that, a couple of other updates I'll move through quickly. If you haven't walked through the trails at the southern portion of Riverside Park, the project to clear debris that's still there from the flood has gone well. It's almost complete. The Weld County Youth Conservation Corps deserves lots of credit for their work to help us clean up that area. I walked through there recently. It looks very nice. I want to highlight our code enforcement activities. 'Tis the season for weed enforcement, and just have a note in the manager's update that during only the week between July 9th and July 15th, code enforcement handled 106 different code enforcement activities. We say activities because they're not necessarily citations. Our code enforcement folks, as you know, work hard with property owners to gain compliance voluntarily without citations. So they meet with residents at their property. They talk on the phone. They have letters, lots of consultation before a citation would actually be issued. However, the update does note that there were 18 citations where compliance couldn't be obtained through other ways. There's some pictures in the update showing what some of those properties had looked like prior to mitigation. Highlight our 17th Avenue water line. If you've driven 17th Avenue north of 37th Street, it's blissfully clear of construction activity. That project came in a couple weeks ahead of schedule and under budget. So we'll have some more detail for council on how that went, and we'll also be trying to put that out there, tell some of our story about that project and on-time project delivery through social media and other ways. Economic development and community development staff had a great first meeting with Innovative Foods regarding their plans to rebuild their business in the industrial area. They have full plans to. I know there are lots of moving parts, but they expressed their sincere interest to rebuild in Evans, and our staff certainly is poised to help them and facilitate that process to the extent that we're able to do so. So we'll be doing that as much as they need us. And that concludes my report.
I just have, just out of curiosity here. I read through the report. I saw staff contacted residents who had set up and filled a large above-ground swimming pool in the street. Where was that at?
It was a block on that metal block or whatever it is, that street that curves around just south of the tennis courts.
Okay. I mean, that's pretty ingenious to do that, but I was kind of curious about that. I was like, neighborhood swimming pool. I'm like, who did that? Where was that?
Well, it went from the front row to the back row, probably.
Wow.
Big thing. Jim, I wanted to mention on Innovative Foods, they do have a trailer set up where you can do private pickup food. They are still selling food. I don't think they're processing any, but the items they have stored or frozen, they're still selling. And it just depends on availability, what they've got left.
Good to know.
Good to know. Thanks, Brian. I didn't know that. All right, city attorney.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem, members of council. We continue to be busy with development items. In addition, we provided a memo to city staff on the latest mask wearing order from the governor. And I don't believe that's been circulated to city council yet, but we'll go ahead and send that around to you tomorrow. So if you get questions about what you can and can't do from your constituents, hopefully you'll be in a better position to answer those. We're keeping this assistant city attorney busier and busier all the time with municipal court and some of the things that you've seen coming in front of you, such as the drone ordinance and things like that. So we're keeping busy. And that's all I've got.
Thank you. All right. Next item on the agenda, audience participation. Is there anybody in the audience who wishes to address city council on any item? Seeing none, executive session, I would entertain a motion.
I move to confer with the city attorney regarding possible purchase, acquisition, or transfer of property pursuant to section 24-66-402 or A and B, CRS, going into executive session.
I have a motion to go into executive session.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to go into executive session. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. All right, we will be in executive session. Thank you, everybody, for coming.